Hey, gorgeous. Welcome to the Ready to Bloom podcast, which features interviews with inspiring women entrepreneurs from around the world. Thank you so much for joining us today. Now, without further ado, I'll hand you over to your host, Holly Wharton.
Hello and welcome to the Ready to Bloom podcast, episode 103. This is your host, Holly Wharton. I'm here with today's special guest, Elyse G. Rogers. Elyse is a vocalist with an eclectic vocal range that expresses itself as freely in electronic dance music as it does in pop music, as exemplified by her origins in the German dance band MAXX in the 90s, and now at the start of her solo career working with the #1 DJs in Europe on new music projects that she intends to change the planet's frequency to a more loving vibration through positive music. Welcome, Elyse.
Oh, hi, Holly. Thanks.
Hello.
That's a beautiful introduction. Thank you.
I'm so excited to talk to you today because, obviously you're an artist, you're a musician, but really, being an artist these days is very much about the same things as being an entrepreneur, isn't it?
I guess so, yeah, because as an artist, you really need to think about your business model. And as a creative, that's not so easy because I just want to sing and songwrite.
Yeah.
But I'm learning all the business side of it and how to, make money so that I can continue to go into the studio and, pay the studio guy and for it all to work and flow,
Yeah, that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
So can you start out by telling us a little bit about your background and your music journey and how you got to where you are today? Because you've had some big changes in the music that you produce.
Yeah, huge. So starting in the 90s, the 1994, I was living in Germany. I auditioned for a German band based in Berlin because I was already singing as an artist locally in the clubs. I was doing what's called cover versions. So I was singing Belinda Carlisle, Lisa Stansfield, all the pop kind of dance songs at the time. And then I got this job in Berlin and basically it just took off from there. It was amazing. We had #1s in Europe, #3 in UK. The thing that kept us off #1 spot in England was Wet, Wet, Wet with Love Is All Around. Mm-hmm. Not guaranteed we would have got to #1, but it was going that way. So very, very intense pop stardom kind of way. And also I was a kind of what you call manufactured, and I don't like to admit that really, but the band was actually made to the fact where you did what they said. Mm-hmm. So they produced the songs and then I went into the studio booth and sang them. So I had no kind of say. And I've always loved to songwrite and over the years. So what happened after that when that all folded, I found myself over the years working as a vocal coach. And I would love to have got back into it. That was my kind of thought, but I didn't know how. And being a vocal coach, I have a few stories, and one in particular is working with some mental health people at a council. That was one of my jobs as a vocal coach. And I noticed that when we would, within the hour, we'd do half hour of singing and half hour of creative drawing and poem writing. And I recognised that in the group every week, what I would see is that when they wrote really positive lyrics, there was a real shift in their being and their states, their emotional states. And we would sing happy songs and they would really light up and they would dance and move. There was a real shift. So I came home this particular day and I asked the question, what would it be like to write really positive lyrics in a pop song? And then that was the start really, because I wrote songs which are on my current album, Blessed with Love, Just Be Yourself, and the love energy. These were real shifts in my kind of thinking. And that's kind of what I do today is kind of pop meditation, I like to call it. I put affirmations, positive affirmations in song. I've used Ho'oponopono in the words, I love you, please forgive me, thank you, I'm sorry. I've used those in one of my songs. So I'm experimenting all the time. And it's just a journey really that I'm opening up to.
So how has your life changed as a result of seeing this positive music rather than the kind of negative music that we often hear on the radio?
Yeah, well, the negative music I can't tolerate. I've got a real aversion to. So if I ever go to a gig or I'm listening, it's on the radio, I'm quite aware that, it's kind of subliminally going in, isn't it? Like you watch the television and stuff and the radio. So yeah, for me, I noticed that whenever I am feeling, because I'm a human at the end of the day, and I get tested sometimes, and I feel that with this music that I'm making, it's that kind of uplifting music, transformational, where it's really getting to the cellular core level. It's working, because we're 80% water, 75%, 80% water. So if we're talking a vibrational level, then words, if they have meaning and sound and vibration in them, then they mean something. So it is purely an experiment. I'm getting really positive feedbacks. I'm getting testimonials on a daily basis here. And I've kept them all in a special folder because I'm going to share them with everybody at some point. And this is only, 5-6 weeks since my album got launched. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, that's all I can tell you at the moment because, I do say it's an experiment and it's a process and we'll see, let's say, all I can do is what I'm doing and getting to the people who are ready for this, really.
Yeah. I think it's interesting because so many of us that are into personal development are aware of the importance of avoiding the news, of avoiding, sad films perhaps, but oftentimes we don't think about music, and pop music can be, so, my boyfriend left me, I'm so depressed. Like, it can be such a downer. And oftentimes we either, aren't consciously aware of the lyrics, but of course they are sinking in at some level, aren't they?
Yeah. Well, if you, and do you know a funny thing? I never read the paper. And I was somewhere the other day, I stopped for something to eat, and this lady said, do you want to read the paper? And I always say, no, not really, because it's all bad news. And quite a reversal kind of thing was that I read this paper and I actually got kind of a high from it, all that negativity, because we're kind of used to that. Mm-hmm. Does that make sense? Yeah, it's part of who we are. We've been brought up on that. We've been conditioned through our education, through the television, through the radio, and that is the normal kind of standard way. What I'm doing is really kind of, testing it and just seeing, can this work? Does this work? Is it changing? And for me, it is, because I wouldn't continue doing it otherwise. But I'm just fascinated to know that this energy, that's the name of my album, the love energy. My goal is, if we can have more love energy on the planet, what a different place we would live. We would have more peace. I would hope that we'd open up this heart of ours, which is a great energy, and just, allow that love, because it's so important, isn't it? And we do need to work really hard. I've chosen quite a mean mission here. I feel like I feel a bit like a warrioress sometimes, where I'm like, oh my God, is this really what I've chosen to do? Because my mission is to change the planet's or raise the planet's frequency to love through positive music. And that is my goal. If I can just, help one person on this planet just to feel more love in their heart and, more compassion, and I'm not saying go out there and love everybody. That's not what I'm saying, because that's not right all the time. What I'm saying is, is loving yourself first. In the past, I would write songs kind of second person, where I'd write, oh yeah, he's left me, or I'm feeling rejected, those kind of things. Nowadays, I write about loving yourself, just be yourself. We're all blessed with love. Those kind of empowerment words. I'm trying my best. It's just a new angle. It's a new niche in the music business, I believe. There is some artists out there already doing it, but I'm like kind of vocalizing it now and kind of walk my walk, talk my talk, That's what I'm trying to do.
And you also work with some very special frequencies, don't you, in your music?
I do, yes.
Can you tell us a little bit about those? Because I think a lot of people might not have heard of them.
I'd love to. Well, I first came across a frequency called 528 hertz frequency. Have you heard of it, Holly?
Yes, I have. I've discovered these frequencies about 3 years ago, I think, and I downloaded all this music that had them, and I listened to them all the time.
Yeah, amazing. Well, 528 is it's in the solar plexus area. So if we're talking chakras now and energy systems, and for people who don't know about chakras. It's these energy vortexes in the body. I mean, it goes back thousands, millions of years in the Chinese kind of way, while they use it in meridians. And 5 to 8 hertz frequency had a lot of research done on this frequency of a guy in America called Len Horowitz. And he reckons that this particular frequency causes transformation and miracles and DNA repair, and it increases life energy and clarity of mind and activates creativity. So there's some great stuff going on there. And this was the key one that I was interested in. So I approached about 2-3 years ago, I approached some sound engineers at recording studios here where I live in my local area. And I asked these sound engineers and musicians, would you be able to help me? I've got this idea of doing an album in 5 to 8. And they generally, the reply from a few of them was like, I really don't know what you're on about. Not sure if I'm getting, I understand it and I want to do it. So it was like kind of a closed door. And so I started the album, my first solo album called The Love Energy, with the intention of at some point tuning it into 5 to 8, not knowing how. And a really funny thing, I don't know if you believe in synchronicity and it's weird, isn't it? So I had this dream, this big, and I could feel it. It wasn't just a thought, it was a knowing. And the guy who I've been working with in the studio is called Alan. And Alan said, Elyse, have you thought about how many songs you want on this album? And I went, I haven't actually. And he said, no, just have a think about that. He said, it's a really good point. This is right at the beginning. So I came home and I asked the question, and the number 9 kept popping in my head. And I'm like, that's really, really weird. Didn't know. And I was like, 9? Why 9? And it was like, 9, it's got to be 9. It's just 9. Okay, 9 tracks on the album. So this particular weekend on a Sunday used to be held a synchronicity group. It's actually called Synchronicity. I don't think it's running at the moment. And it's here in Manchester in a place called Prestwich. And it's a group of people who get together and we have different speakers on. And sometimes I would sing. But at this point, I wasn't singing there because I'd just met the organiser. And at the same time, I was speaking to this beautiful couple that I'd just met, a man and his wife. And the organiser came over to ask me, oh, Elyse, I heard that you sing. Do you fancy singing at the next function we do? Yeah. And as I turned back round to the couple said, I'm sorry, I've just heard your conversation. I hope you don't mind. But what is it that you do? I heard that you sing. And I said, yes, I'm doing an album in 5 to 8. And he looked at his wife and he went, oh my God. And I said, what? And he said, do you know there's 8 more frequencies?
Wow. I just got the chills when you said that.
I did as well. Oh my God. 8. I was like, you are kidding me. And it all sort of made sense. And he said, I'm looking for a singer to work with these 9 solfeggio frequencies. Would you be up for kind of learning them and spending some time with me? He said, I've transposed or tuned my keyboard into these frequencies. I was like, oh my God.
Perfect.
So I spent some time with this guy and his wife and my husband. The 4 of us would get together and, we'd have, herbal teas and vegetable meals. And I kind of learnt initially through him, but the thing was he was moving abroad with his wife. They were selling up and going. And so that was kind of meant to be, because what happened was with this new information of these solfeggio frequencies, these 9 frequencies, I was unable then to go back to the original studio because I'd sort of pulled away and I needed time out on it because I knew that I wanted to work with these frequencies and I wasn't willing to settle for just the normal kind of, just for people to know that the standard concert pitch for all music that's generically out there is called 440 hertz vibration. And that actually means, and what I'm determining and researching is that the oscillation, that the kind of, you can't see my fingers now, but I'm actually just doing a circle, that the speed of the music is in 440 hertz vibration. And for example, if you got have you seen it all on the internet where you get a piece of metal or cardboard, you put sand on it or glitter, and underneath you put that vibration. Have you seen this, Holly?
No, I haven't. No.
Oh, okay. I'll have to check some out for you and send it through. So basically, it's the vibration of that frequency underneath the sand or the glitter, and it forms a shape. So the thing with these frequencies, they all form different shapes. And it's just so fascinating. And it then talks about sacred geometry, and we're going into a whole different area there. But just going back to the solfeggio frequencies, what I found is that if you start with the 9 frequencies and you start track 1 or frequency 174, which is at the feet area, and then I lead you through right to the top of the crown, to the head, then you get this kind of uplifting state. It's quite high, actually. It's a euphoric kind of state, where a happy state. And I first kind of came across it when I was coming home with my demo CD, and I'd pop it into the machine, and by about track 4 or 5 of my album, I was picking up kind of different volume. I was demoing the album before it was finished, and by track 8 or 9 I'd be dancing around the room. Skipping, loving myself and feeling great. And then I asked myself a question: oh my God, is that because it's my album and I'm really happy, or is it generally because of these frequencies? And it does seem to take kind of the frequencies to get through, and that's when you have that shift. And a few people have said to me, I love track 8 and I love track 9, and I'm going, but why do you like those tracks? And you don't really understand it.
Yeah.
It's because by the time they get to track 8 and 9, they're actually quite high. So
the songs on your album walk people through those frequencies. You keep going up from the 174 up to the highest one, the 9.
Yeah, and then what's fascinating is the solfeggio, what I've discovered all on the internet is, do you remember, because I can't show you, the actual visual picture, do you remember... Oh, do you know the Vitruvian Man?
Yes.
Yeah, so it's that symbol with the guy who's got his arms out and his legs out. It was on World in Action years ago, for people who don't know what I'm on about. And I basically uncovered that these frequencies go round. That's the Vitruvian Man. So what that Vitruvian Man symbol means to me, and what I've discovered, is the wholeness of man, or in our case, the wholeness of women. So it balances everything out on a cellular level to that balance of wholeness, you see. It's fascinating, isn't it? Really.
Yeah, it is.
I'm so amazed that I've discovered this, because I'm just blown away. and I don't speak about it enough, because I'm kind of treading carefully.
Yeah.
I want this to go out to the right people, and I'm sure it will do. And it just, because it's out there, and yeah, I need to share it more now. I just need to do it because it's my album,
So you have completely reinvented yourself in music.
Yeah.
And that's not always easy. I think it's probably rarely easy. So what would you say are your top tips for other women who are looking to kind of do the same thing but completely different and reinvent themselves? What are the best tips that you have for how to make that happen?
That's a really great question, isn't it? For me, it was about my integrity. I'll give you an example of what I've just done. I put myself through to The Voice Series 5. Now, that's kind of crazy, isn't it? Because, that's not what I'm doing at all. But I kind of was just checking emotionally where I was at with myself and where my confidence levels were, and, my beliefs and my values. And I kind of was just checking it, really, because if I take like The Voice, for example, and I'm plugging The Voice here, is that, it's a competition, which in my view leads to comparisons. Because when you start competing, which is a very masculine energy, and we as women were feminine energy, and I'm not saying we don't need that masculine sometimes, but not too much of it, because that goes back to the whole point of what I was saying about the education system and the television. It's all kind of too much masculine. So yeah, the top tips would be to kind of sit with yourself and ask those questions, kind of the open-ended questions, like what would it be like to do my passion? What is my passion? If you don't know, what would that look like? What would that feel like? What would that sound like? So just going back to The Voice, I decided that it wasn't sitting right with me, because I was having to learn some old songs and some cover for the audition, which is in 2 weeks' time. And these old songs were kind of putting me in a different state, and the lyrics were kind of quite sad. And I was trying to look on the internet for really positive, uplifting lyrics that it didn't take me too long to learn, because kind of time's against me and I'm running, I want to promote my album. So I don't want to give the next 2 weeks to just doing the voice, because it's not guaranteed, And then there was another thing, by going on the voice, let's say I won it, for example, then I would probably sign a 12-month contract with Simon Cowell to do what? But then there was a part of me that was thinking, oh my God, am I missing a great opportunity here? Because I can share these frequencies. But then it just seems so much hard work. So I guess another tip, aside from the open-ended questions, would be, are you in your flow? Is it flowing? Are you kind of bumping synchronistically into people? Once you've asked that open question, like, what do you mean nine tracks in a song? Where did that come from, And then you're bumping into, complete strangers who are giving you that message, and you're like, okay, so there is 9, and there's these 9 frequency, and it's kind of like a jigsaw, and you just know it, like you feel it. Because just going back to these frequencies, you don't hear them, although you can do. But what the whole point is that you feel them.
Yeah.
So, I go to meditation now about once or twice a week locally to where I live. And the guy there is 94. It's in his front living room, and there was 30 people in this room, Holly. I can't explain to you. And he is amazing, because he just talks about, well, he talks at you, really, and which is lovely, because you just kind of zone out, and he makes sense. And he was saying the other evening that it's not the thought, it's not those thinking things, it's the feeling. And, even me, myself, I'm a work in progress, and I got asked the other day, how do you feel about that? I'm like, I don't know. I'm so out of touch. And that's kind of where I want to get to. I want to know what I'm feeling. I want to know if something's off for me or if something's right for me. And I think if we can wake up to ourselves on our own innerness of feeling, and that's what I'm hoping to share with my music at the moment, so that people know how amazing they are, but they have to know that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Excellent. Now, you've also mentioned on your website that your music has also been shaped by EFT and NLP.
Yeah.
How is that? I love that. I read that and I thought, ooh, that's exciting. Very few people can say that.
No, nobody's ever asked me before or spotted that just yet. That is amazing. That just shows where you're at, though, doesn't it? Because I just love you. I think you're amazing.
Oh, thank you.
Oh, gosh. In the year of a kind of 2000, so what, 15 years ago, I've not shared this with the listeners just yet, was that kind of the music business being like it was, and me being a pop star in the 90s, and then I joined a girl group, and that kind of folded, and it wasn't a great experience, to be honest, that one, but then maybe it was one of life's lessons. And I found that from the year of 2000 onwards, for a good 10 years actually, was that I was unable to sing. It wasn't that initially I wasn't unable to, I just didn't want to. And it was like my mind had kind of shut down to ever singing again, because the experience that I had in the music business it was great in some parts, but it kind of, I don't know what's the word, it kind of took me in and spat me out. It was quite brutal at times, because it was just the way I experienced it. And plus, what I do now is I'm getting an awesome team of women around me, and not just women, men as well, who are kind of, keeping me together, let's say, at times when I judge myself, or, I have those mind program things going on. So in the year of 2000, maybe 2002, actually, I saw NLP, and I became a practitioner, and I found that, or I felt that by being an NLP practitioner, I would learn more about words, more about feelings, more about who I was as a person and my environment, and because NLP means neuro-linguistic programming, I was really, really interested in this area, which makes total sense with where I'm at today, because I have implemented that into my business, into my music. And talking about modalities and talking about different words and the meaning of them is so powerful. So yeah, I use NLP in my music. I also, in 2004, 2 years later, I got into EFT and became a practitioner. Well, I've got my level 3. And I realised again that EFT is so powerful. It shifts the negative stuff. It creates more kind of yourself and who you are as a person, more balance and harmony. And I found myself driving home one day from an EFT kind of weekend workshop, and I tapped all the way home. And really, you shouldn't do that if you're driving, you know.
Yes.
And,
not recommended to listeners.
But I was kind of on a flow. And I drove home, which was an hour. I got home to my bedroom and I tapped all through the night, and that tapping turned into song.
Ooh.
I've not told many people this, actually. You've got this out of me. And so I read, I was like, oh, okay, this is interesting. So I Googled on the internet and I found there was one lady in America who'd done a EFT CD. Mm-hmm. And I don't know if I can't remember her name now. And I thought, I want to do that. But her CD the words were, I don't want to go to school, to some funky music. I don't want to go to school. And I was like, I don't want to do those lyrics. I want to do positive lyrics. So it was kind of on its journey anyway, thinking about it. So what I decided to do with the NLP and EFT, I decided to implement what I'd known into my music. Because why not? You know, I've learned a lot in these areas. And I've just written, because I'm working with 4 different music producers in Europe at the moment. Aside from my album project, I've got these different projects going on. And although predominantly 3 out of the 4 music producers don't know enough about these frequencies, so I'm just sticking with the generic 440 hertz vibration with them at the moment. But I'm putting really positive lyrics into these dance tracks. These are dance tracks, and the French guy, music producer, is called Gregory. He sends me kind of trance music, and I thought, what would it be like to put, so that's that open question again, what would it be like to put I deeply and completely love and accept myself in a song? So I managed to get in this song, and it's I've just signed a record contract for it.
Ooh, congratulations.
Yay, thank you. And it's a track called Love Lifts Me Up. And the words in the song are, I deeply and completely love myself. Because I couldn't fit accepting, it just wouldn't fit in the line. So I thought, well, I'll put that in. So with the intention, because this is so important to me, it's my intention is to, you know, set this new movement off of this love energy movement where, you know, we're in, I can just visualize people now in the clubs, in the dance clubs, just going, yeah, I deeply, completely love myself. You know, can you imagine that, Holly? Rather than, oh my God, he left me. You know, just thinking, I deeply, completely love myself, and letting it go through every cell of your body. Oh my God, what a planet we're going to be. We're going to be like rocking it, aren't we? We're going to be like, excuse me. You know, I love me. In fact, track, have you listened to my album?
Of course I have. It's on my iPhone.
Oh, thank you, Holly. Track 6, oh, how bad am I? Anyway, there's a track on there called Most Importantly, it's track 6. And most importantly is in the heart chakra, so the 639 hertz vibration on the solfeggio frequencies is the heart chakra. So this song is actually about how I love you, but most importantly, I love myself.
Okay.
So it has to start with self first. We've been kind of, and especially as women in that mother energy, we've been conditioned and it's just normal for us to be nurturing. We give of ourselves all the time. We give to others, we do for others, you know, but we have to start with ourselves first, and then by doing that we can then be the best for others, can't we, and give to them. And
Oh, fantastic. So,
Yeah.
Elyse, do you have any women business mentors or mentors in general? Are there any women in business who inspire you?
Oh, wow. There's quite a lot, actually.
Yeah.
God, you want me to go through
No, just your
the
top
list?
maybe 2 or 3.
Cool. Jane Kenyon's pretty cool.
Mm-hmm.
Have you heard of Jane?
No, actually, I haven't.
Jane's pretty cool. She is based up here in Cheshire, near to where I live, and she's running 2 kind of programs. She runs a charity called Girls Out Loud.
Ooh.
Have you heard of it?
No, I haven't.
girlsoutloud.org, I think it's called, is basically she goes round to schools in Manchester, and I think she's just opened up in Liverpool now, and she's opening up different places around the country. They help young girls still in school figure out what it is they want to do in life. It's amazing, and you can be like a big sister to a girl for 12 months.
Oh, I love
Isn't
that.
it fabulous? And I had Jane as my mentor for 2 years ago at the very beginning, mainly because I am a creative, and what that means, if you know anything about creatives, we are quite scatty. I don't mean that in a bad way. We just flip from bit to bit. We do a creative kind of project, and then we never really finish it, or we go off and we go back to it maybe because it needs to be finished. Because I do that with my songs, but generally we're like, oh yeah, think of the ideas. It was so funny, driving down the road, and my husband will say to me, what are your thoughts on this, and this, and I'll give him all these ideas, and it used to drive him crazy. And do you know about talent dynamics?
Yes, yep.
Well, I had mine done, and once he found out I was a creator, he was so relieved, because now he says to me, okay, creative, come on, what ideas have you got? Now it's kind of fun between us. Before it was kind of a problem, because I was just bombarding him with all these ideas. So we're pretty crazy like that, but we're good fun. So yeah, there's Jane Kenyon. There's also Joanna Martin, who's amazing, and the stuff that she's doing at the moment. She runs her own business called One of Many, and she was running the One Woman Conference, and she's got this huge mission to enable women to know how powerful and unique and special they are, which is a wonderful thing. And I've just joined her program for the 12 months called the Lead the Change program. And with that, I get my own coach. I get a one-to-one coach, and I get a group call. So every week there's something going on, and it's just great value, honestly. I go to 4 retreats in a year, which is Be Love, Be Wealth, Be Fulfilled, and Be Vital. We got to spend a day with the horses, which was amazing. That was called Be Influenced, and this was 2 women down in, I think we went to just below Birmingham somewhere, Berkshire, and we spent a lovely day. There was a group of us who were on this change program, and we got to work with horses on kind of an entrepreneur leadership program. It's just fascinating, Holly, that you can do that. So yeah, Joanna Martin, Susie Heath, Annie Stoker, they're all part of that, and that's really great to get into. And then obviously there's yourself.
Oh, thank you.
It's amazing, and the work that you are doing, and this Psych K that you're doing, I still don't know enough about it, and I'm intrigued, because obviously I come from an NLP and EFT background. So I know it sounds great in the quickness of it, and that's what we want now. We want quick results, don't we?
Yes, we do. So, Elyse, it was such a pleasure to have you today.
Yeah. Where
Where can people find you online? And most importantly, where can people buy your album?
I love that you put most importantly. Everywhere.
We need to raise the energy. So, listeners, you need to raise your energy too.
Yeah. Okay, so Elyse is spelt Elyse. So my website is elisemusic.com. And if you go on there, you'll find the digital kind of iTunes and Spotify. You can download. It's about just under £8 to get a digital copy. If you want the hard physical copy, which is beautiful, it has a 12-page booklet inside explaining all about the frequencies, and it has all the lyrics to the tracks. Then that too can be ordered from my website, which is £12, and then £2 extra for postage and packaging.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah, I am on Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn I don't use so much, but Facebook kind of, is predominantly. So it's elysemusic.com. But yeah, just hook up with me. I'd love to chat to people, and if they've got any questions, yeah.
Great. Well, thank you so much for joining us today, and thank you for sharing your really inspiring story of how you've completely reinvented yourself in music.
Thank you, Holly. Thank you to everyone who's listened. And I wish you lots of love energy.
Thank you. And thank you for listening. And remember to visit readytobloom.com/103 for the show notes on this episode. Thank you.
Thanks so much for listening to the Ready to Bloom podcast with your host, Holly Wharton. You can find more information about today's guests, including links for topics that were discussed at readytobloom.com. That's ready, 2, bloom.com. And if you enjoyed this episode, please remember to head over to iTunes and leave us a quick review of this podcast. Thank you so much.